I probably should have waited for this to be like a 10K special video, but I just want to get it out because I want you guys to know my story and how I became a Resident Evil fan turned content creator. Am I making this because I'm running out of videos? No. I'm just realizing some of them are kind of big projects, I guess, but you guys will see in the near future anyways. So when I was a little kid out in the country, I saw my older brother play a lot of video games on our PS2, but I was a little too young to play it in a way, but I still had the urge of wanting to play. Two specific games stood out to me, Madden 2005 and Resident Evil Outbreak. Madden was easier to play, but I sucked and cheated my way into victories against my brother and was a sore loser, but what 5 to 6 year old kid isn't a sore loser? Resident Evil Outbreak was an interesting one, however. I always saw my bro play as Kevin in the first scenario, and I remember vividly how it went down. I remember that the camera was so weird to see as it was something I never saw before, and everyone knows it was the fixed camera. Years later, I bought Outbreak and beat all the scenarios, with a guide on YouTube, I will admit that, about last year, and it was fun. The next Resident Evil game I saw was the one I wanted to play, but it scared the living hell out of me. It was Resident Evil 4. I think this was either days or months later, so why was I scared? It's simple. Dr. Salvador had me petrified, and every time I saw him on my screen, I wanted to curl into a ball and grab my blankets or just flat out run away from my TV screen. Whenever I asked my brother if I could play it, he would let me play, but every time I saw the chainsaw guy, I either paused it or I just gave the controller to my brother so he could beat him for me. I was fine with everything else, including the regenerators and Garradors. Dr. Salvador, however, hell no. Now, you're probably wondering, why were you not scared of the regenerators and only scared of Dr. Salvador? Now, this is such a weird way to put it, but it's because I always thought the breathing sound that they made sounded like they were getting tickled. You know how Man Ray in a SpongeBob episode where the tickle belt is on him, then SpongeBob uses the key on it, and when he tries to rob the bank, the tickling effect is still there? That's what the regenerators felt like when I heard that sound, but more deeper and obviously more scarier, but it never really fazed me for some reason. After RE4, I fully switched to Resident Evil 5 after we got our PS3, and I was playing the living hell out of that game, but was scared of the Chainsaw Majini, but not as much as I used to be scared of Dr. Salvador. Oh, by the way, my fear of chainsaws were through the roof, and guess who I was for Halloween in one of those years? Leatherface. I promise you guys, I'm not making this up. I remember there were some battery slots in the chainsaw, and when I flipped the switch it sounded like a massacre was happening. I was actually scared of even touching it. And when I went out for trick-or-treating, I decided to take the batteries out because I was too scared, and I never held the chainsaw. It was just complete plastic, and I was so terrified to even hold it again. And I'm telling you guys this straight up. I'm not making this up. Now back to RE5, that game was my most played game ever. I wanted to beat every single thing about it. I maxed out the Legging Hawk, and I never looked back. Then when I stopped playing that game, I made one of the biggest mistakes ever, and I was just straight up binging and loving the Paul Anderson Resident Evil movies. It got to the point where I watched those more than I played the games, but after Retribution came out, it was just done for. I never wanted to watch them again, honestly, and I still haven't watched the final chapter to this day. And I know how poorly received that movie was, and I don't really plan on watching it unless I was doing some sort of punishment challenge. After that phase was done, I went back to RE4 and I played that game like no tomorrow, but I fell into a deep break and got an Xbox and played so many other games. I didn't really fully invest into Resident Evil until I learned about the relationship between Leon and Ada. It was a connection that pulled me back into the series, but there was another layer on top of that, which was the main reason why I got back into RE, but I will never tell you guys that reason unless I hit like 100,000 subs. But I wanted to learn more about Resident Evil in general. I was fully aware of other characters and games, do not get me wrong about that, but these two just felt different, I could say. But if it really wasn't for these two, and Resident Evil 4 specifically, I don't think this channel would exist. I got into some lore and more games and was starting to fully invest into the series, but the time I was as confident as ever, it was such bad timing because the pandemic hit and we knew how dark that shit was. It was hard for me to do stuff, and I was just thinking about what I could do to just kill time outside of playing and knowing about the games and lore, and also the CGI movies as well. I was watching those a lot, especially Damnation. So I was sitting there and I thought to myself, I know a lot about YouTube and content creation, but I know I was green as hell and didn't know the full landscape of things. So I decided to go to Twitch and stream Resident Evil content, and that did pretty solid, I guess, I will admit that, but I knew the main goal and platform was YouTube, so I decided to press live, and in just one take I was recording quote unquote a YouTube video. I had to look up a tutorial on how to get my streams onto YouTube, and that's mostly why my first few videos were gameplay videos. And in my one take videos, I was stuttering and losing my footing so much in those one take videos, and it was just absolutely terrible. I took a 2-month break off of YouTube because I just felt burnt out and my channel was going nowhere. Then I uploaded a video talking about leaks, and then that video took off. Then I found an editing software and I got confident in my videos and I started editing, and it wasn't good, but it has improved drastically now. Then I hit 500 subs and sat down and said I can work and get over 1K and I can do this. The crazy thing is that I'm not a know-it-all with Resident Evil, and I will never claim myself as a know-it-all because I'm still learning about the series to this day. I hit over 1K and the rest was history. This journey is only the beginning for us, and I'm extremely thankful for you guys. And I'm extremely thankful for my childhood introducing me to Resident Evil Outbreak and RE4, because without those games, I don't know if my love and passion would ever exist for the series. Leon himself was a huge part to that as well. He just had this calm swagger to him in RE4, and it was just fun to see. It was like a 90s or 80s cheesy action movie, and I grew up on those with the big buff actors starring in them. He was never down or up all the time, it was just complete calmness in each situation, and looking back, I'm grateful for him in RE4. Never thought I'd be grateful for a pixelated video game character, but here we are now. I'm gonna put out a video to show how grateful I am for RE4, like fully dedicated in about a few years. Outbreak was a game ahead of its time, and that was a sight to see as well. I'm thankful for my brother playing those games, because without that, who knows what would happen. But aside from me now, I want to know in the comments, how did you guys become Resident Evil fans and what convinced you to fully invest into it? Whether if you're a content creator or just a fan in general, I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I would love to hear everyone's stories. So if you enjoyed my story or journey to becoming a Resident Evil fan, please, if you are new, like the video to help it reach the algorithm, and be sure to subscribe as well to see more RE content in the future. I would greatly appreciate that. I hope everyone has themselves a good day, good night, and a good sleep, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.